Hello, I'm Catherine Biarahanga. An agreed ceasefire in Gaza has come into effect. The ceasefire comes into force after Israel's government formally approved the first stage of President Trump's ceasefire plan, which will see the release of all hostages held in Gaza. In a statement on X, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the government has just now approved the framework for the release of all of the hostages, the living and the deceased. President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and the president's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, also attended the cabinet meeting, sitting next to Benjamin Netanyahu. The first phase of the ceasefire plan will also see the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners, and Israel will withdraw its troops to an agreed line in Gaza. Speaking at the Israel cabinet meeting, Benjamin Netanyahu was once again full of praise for President Trump for helping to secure the release of the remaining hostages in the coming days.
We're at a momentous development in the last 2 years. We fought during these 2 years to achieve our war aims, and a central one of these war aims is to return the hostages, all of the hostages, the living and the dead. And we're about to achieve that goal. We couldn't have achieved it without the extraordinary help of President Trump and his team, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. They worked tirelessly with Ron and his team, our team. That and the courage of our soldiers who entered Gaza and the combined military and diplomatic pressure that isolated Hamas, I think, has brought us to this point. I want to personally thank both of you, Steve, Jared. It's been long hours. You worked around the clock, but not only worked, I think you put in your brains and your hearts. And we know that it's for the benefit of Israel and the United States, for the benefit of decent people everywhere, and for the benefit of these families who will finally get to be with their loved ones.
Meanwhile, the deputy chairman of the Hamas Political Bureau said he's received guarantees from the US and others that the war has completely ended.
Today, we announce that we have reached an agreement to end the war and aggression against our people and to begin implementing a permanent ceasefire, the withdrawal of the occupation forces, the entry of aid, the opening of the Rafah crossing in both directions, and the exchange of prisoners, where 250 Palestinian prisoners who were sentenced to life imprisonment will be released, in addition to 1,700 prisoners from the Gaza Strip, who were arrested after October 7th, in addition to the release of all children and women. We have received guarantees from the mediating brothers and from the American administration, all of whom confirm that the war has ended completely.
Well, earlier, Tom Fletcher, UN Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator, joined my colleague Amal Rajan from BBC Radio 4's Today programme to discuss the UN's plans for the coming weeks and months to get aid into Gaza.
So the UN has a plan. There's been unimaginable suffering in Gaza, tens of thousands killed, including over 18,000 children. That's a child killed on average every hour for 2 years. And this agreement's a real breakthrough. But the real breakthrough will be when the hostages are home, when children are fed, when they can sleep without terror under a roof, when they're not bombed and maimed, when they can be operated on with anesthetics, when they can go back to school, when families are reunited again. And so we will deliver that plan. We've got a 60-day plan to get that aid in, to save lives at huge, huge scale. We have fought and beaten famines before, and we will do it again this time.
How confident are you that the restrictions previously placed on aid deliveries by Israel, who say that those deliveries have been hijacked or vandalized, that those restrictions will now be lifted?
So that's the big question for the coming hours and days. And obviously, we're in very close touch with the Israeli authorities in country to make sure that those impediments, those obstacles are now removed. We need all the crossings open. We need safe routes for our convoys. We need our people protected. Hundreds of my colleagues have been killed in the last 2 years. We need the removal of red tape and physical barriers. We need the power back on to our bakeries, our hospitals, our water stations. It's a massive, massive job ahead. We need access for our NGO colleagues and partners as well. And as you say, we need the international media to get back in and tell the world what is happening and hold us to account for saving lives.
What are your plans for increasing food deliveries immediately?
So that's objective number one. We've got to get high nutrition food in. We've got to get hundreds of truckloads, convoy. We need to overwhelm Gaza with food and generosity and aid and help right now. We need to get food to 2 million people across the strip in every part of Gaza, north and south. And we have those supplies pre-positioned. We've got 172,000 metric tons of food, medicine, and tents all cleared, ready to go in. The teams are on standby at the crossings. The trucks are ready to roll, and we'll use our community networks, our expertise, our experience to get that food where it is most needed.
And of course, we continue to monitor events on the ground in Gaza as this fresh ceasefire gets underway. We have these pictures from central Gaza. They show what looks like thousands of people out on the road. This is one of the main roads linking the north of the territory to the south. People carrying items on their heads, their shoulders, traveling north back to areas that they have been displaced from. So over the last few weeks, we have seen hundreds of thousands of people making the journey in the opposite direction, heading south, looking for safety. But now, in the minutes after this ceasefire has been agreed, Gazans are heading back north. We've heard from our correspondent, Rushdie Abu-Alouf, who is following developments in Gaza. He says that residents in northern and western Gaza City have been left stunned as Israeli forces withdrew from several neighborhoods. He says that for the first time in weeks, people have entered the Sheikh Radwan, Al-Karama and beach camp areas only to find entire residential blocks flattened, hundreds of homes and much of the area's infrastructure destroyed. So at the moment, we're seeing reports or listening to reports of people who've been able to come or return back to parts of Gaza that they have had to flee from. Of course, this comes as the Israeli forces withdraw from parts of the territory, but of course they will still maintain control of 50% of the territory. So right now we're following these developments, of course, as the ceasefire comes into effect. And of course, these are some of the first scenes that we're seeing of people returning back to northern Gaza, especially Gaza City, where they've had to flee over the last few weeks as Israel has carried out its ground offensive there. And the ceasefire came into effect about 40 minutes ago, pardon me.